Gracias for pressing play, and welcome to Smart Chickens, a working together smarter, diversity meets innovation and growth podcast. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Amy Pugh. She has an intensive and impressive background working in the music industry for over a decade. We have an interesting conversation on her background growing up in Ohio, then transitioning back to her New Jersey, New York roots to attend Fordham University to pursue her liberal arts degree and also her dream to enter into the music business. Her incredible journey has taken her to work with some major companies in the music biz, from Sony Music, EMI, IAC, and now with StingRay. She gives us some of her book recommendations to get 1% better, advice to recent college graduates planning to enter the music biz, and then we take a trip with Michael J. Fox and his Back to the Future DeLorean to speak to a younger Amy. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our good friends at digitechie.com, a conversational marketing demand gen and revenue accelerator consultancy, and gypsyforever.com, uniquely handmade wellness products that help you connect your mind, body, and soul to achieve a better balanced you. So a little bit about Amy's background. Amy is a dynamic executive known for specialized collaborative and consultative style with her clients. She boasts over 13 years of experience in key facets of business, management, planning, and implementation in the music business, but also with startups and through Fortune 500 accounts. Currently, she is the head of artists and label relations at StingRay, but she's also had her own agency called Talisma Strategies back in 2015 through 2019 out of New York City. She's held numerous roles with juggernauts in the music business, such as IAC, that's Interactive Corp, Sony Music Finance, EMI Music North America, and so forth. Needless to say, we have a true rock star in the music biz. Vamos, let's dive into the show, and without further ado, here's Amy. Amy, how are you? Hopefully, a little bit loud you there for a minute. How are you?
I'm good. That's perfect ever right there.
Yeah,
That's
Chaka Khan brings me back to the 80s, good old days.
Straight up. I still live in the 80s, okay? It's 2020. I still live in the 80s. In my heart. Forever.
Chaka Khan, takes me back. For sure.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Really excited to have you. You're very diverse in your background and career. Not many people can say they've been in the business industry. And in doing my research, I found it interesting because, this is Smart Chicken, which is a podcast about diversity and how that spurs innovation and growth. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to also dig into a little bit of my guest's background, right? So I'm going to start off with that. So I know that you're originally from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And you went to high school there?
I
Ohio,
did.
That's great. Buckeyes, I don't know. But
Straight up Buckeye.
No, I know. And I know you went to Fordham University. But talk to me a little bit about growing up in Ohio. What was that like? What was your family dynamic? Tell me a little bit and tell our audience a little bit about your background there.
Cool. So I'm going to backpedal just a little bit. I actually lived in Pennsylvania, and my dad's actually originally from Pittsburgh. And I also grew up partially in New Jersey. So we transitioned from New Jersey to Ohio, which was a huge wake-up call for me.
Oh, yes.
Because we had a lot more diversity in New Jersey than Ohio. So that was a big wake-up call for me. Also, I just changing the pace from, being a South Jersey kid growing up not too far from the shore, having like Ocean City weekends and stuff, going right into Ohio, which is country. Okay.
Yes.
They have one of the best summer fairs ever. It's called the Canfield Fair.
Oh, awesome.
Their tagline is literally something to crow about, which is the best. But no joke, I love the Canfield Fair, and I try and get home like whenever I can to attend it. This year's canceled, which is really sad. But going from New Jersey to was a very interesting time because I started my freshman year of high school in New Jersey. So I was starting a whole new high school experience in Ohio, right? As a sophomore. So
Quite a transition for sure, especially
Oh,
throughout the teenage years, which are very
yes,
difficult at the
it was
beginning.
crazy. But the way I got through it, and I'm also not so shy anymore, but in high school I was a lot more shy. So my way out of the shyness was musical theater and music. So I quickly found out that there was a band, like they had a marching band and then orchestra in the off season. So I signed up for band
I see.
immediately. And then I went to theater meetings and I got involved in the theater program. And that helped the transition because pretty much the kids that are in band, a lot of them are in theater, and then everybody does speech and debate together. So it's all like very artsy. And
Okay.
honestly, the arts
Yeah.
got me through it. And
No,
I'm,
that's great.
yeah, and
So I was going to ask about, you're obviously in the music business, which is not an easy business to be in, but typically there's either, a musician in the family, not always, but sometimes there's some calling that you get when you're early on in life, or young in life, right? So you're telling me now, I get it. New Jersey, transitioning to Ohio, your way to fit in as a sophomore was, let me get into the creative arts there with music, build my little community, my tribe of people like-minded. At that age, it's very important. We all want to belong. And so that's great. That's interesting. So then, all right, so now you now transition from the Midwest, Ohio, back for college, right? So I did my research and I know you went to Fordham University in New
mm-hmm.
York. So that was a kind of coming home, right? Sort of. How
Yeah.
was that transition like, going from, Ohio in your high school years now to college back in your kind of your roots, the Northeast, New Jersey, New York?
Well, interestingly enough, I always wanted to live in New York City. When I was 15 in New Jersey, we had a field trip to go see Les Mis on Broadway and just hang out in the city for the day. And I thought it was the best thing ever. And I was like, I turned to my mom, who was a chaperone, and I said, hey, Mom, I'm going to live in New York City and I'm going to work in music on Broadway. And she's like, all right, you're young, let's see how it goes. And literally, I turned to her and I ended up auditioning for um, a musical theater conservatory and I got in. And that was literally how I got to New York at first. So graduated my musical theater conservatory, which was a 2-year program, worked in theater for a couple of years after that. And then I decided that I wanted to go back and finish my college education. I initially had started it in Youngstown at Youngstown State University.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I did a year of college before I went to the conservatory. So fast forward to applying to Fordham, getting in, and that's literally where I spent 4 years doing my undergrad, and I loved every minute of it. It was great. Fordham really helped open a lot of doors for me and helped prepare me for like the professional path that I had ahead, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's a great segue to that question that I had around. So Fordham is your educational, obviously, kind of entry into the music industry. But some say that success happens at the intersection of preparation meets opportunity.
Absolutely.
So what was that moment for you? Because it had to have been a moment to catapult you into what has been now a 15-year career and journey with juggernauts in the likes of Sony, EMI, StingRay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So walk me through that moment. What had happened, or what micro moments happened before you got that opportunity?
Sure. So I always did music as a kid. I sang all the time, played musical instruments. My grandfather actually was a musician too. He was in the church choir and he built a dulcimer and taught me how to play it. And he was a huge inspiration to me and to why I wanted to do something music related in my life. And outside of that, there were many, many steps that led me to that. But I'd say one of the most poignant moments that happened was I was sitting at my desk at IAC, Interactive Corp. It was my very first job in corporate America. I was super green, learning everything I could, on my feet. And I was fortunate enough to work with some really great people that mentored me during that time. And I I still just had this feeling like I should be in the music industry. So I just, was looking around, seeing what was out there, seeing what was available for gigs at the time. And Sony ATV Music Publishing was hiring. And there was a finance job open. And I was like, that looks interesting. So I applied and I didn't think anything of it. I was on vacation and I got a call from Sony's HR. And they said, hey, can you come in for an interview? And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. So when I got back from vacation, I literally had to be in interview prep mode like that. And it was crazy, but that's how I entered into the music industry. It was actually through music publishing. So it was awesome because I learned everything about the music industry from the ground up on the publishing side of the fence, which was
Right.
great. On
Right,
that
because
side,
that's actually where the rubber meets the road. That's the
yeah,
money side, right? So not
exactly.
just the creative artist, the AR side.
Right, right.
So
I was digging through everything.
that's such a great story. In that, what I like about what you just unpacked there is that you were young, eager, and also smart enough to think, I need mentors, right? So how do I put myself in a position where I'm showing that I really want to excel, and I know that I don't know what I don't know, so I want to go after and meet and build bridges with folks that do. So talk me a little bit through that, how you did that. What was your sort of go-to or secret way to do that? Because some of the listeners are going to be folks that can take that to where they are right now in their careers.
Mhm.
And then my hope is that there's going to be also very young listeners that are getting into any industry, corporate America, just business, right? So recent graduates. And so that may be a nice insight for them.
Yeah, sure. Um, I pretty much am a curious soul. So anywhere I go, I just end up talking to everyone. Um, I ask questions. I want to know about every division wherever I am. So because of that, I would literally visit people whenever I take breaks and just walk the halls or whatever, and just start talking. And then from the talking sometimes turned into coffees or lunches, so we could talk even more. Sometimes dinners, sometimes drinks. Um, it all added up to really fostering some really great relationships with people that I still have today. But a lot of them ended up being mentors for me. Um, and even still, I'll reach out to people that I met back in the day at Sony or back in the day, Universal, and I'll ask for advice or feedback on what I'm working on, what I'm doing, whatever. And they do the same thing. It's reciprocated. So, building up that feeling of trust with someone is the first step. So, you don't just necessarily jump into, hey, can I grab a coffee? Or, hey, can we jump on the phone? You've got to kind of work up that trust first. Some people will still just say, do it the opposite way, and it works, and that's cool. But for me, I like to kind of do the build up and really get people to know me, and then I get to know them. And it's just, to me, it establishes more of an ongoing, relationship.
Yeah, that's great. That's great insight too. I agree that you got to make deposits of credibility, of empathy, of actually wanting to get to know that person and having them get to know you at both a professional and maybe even a personal level, so that you can then, feel more comfortable in asking for some insight, some advice, or maybe even a help to,
Mhm.
to do a project or to get to the next level. So, the music industry has evolved. And I know that when you came into AIC, it was right around the time where a little known person named, Steve Jobs took on the idea from the former CEO of Napster back in 1999. This is a throwback to us.
So bad.
Napster, peer-to-peer MP3, right?
Oh my
The
gosh.
beginning of the end of the music industry, the business side as we know it. So tell me what you experienced and what you recall some executives experiencing when this was all going down, right?
Hmm. When Napster came out, we all, of course, super young then. We all were so excited. You know, they were somewhat the Spotify of their day.
Mhm.
The downloads were there, the
Right.
music was there. We were all transitioning from, having our portable our CD Walkmans
Mhm.
into digital. And it was a wild, crazy time. It was like the wild, wild west, right?
Yes.
I'd say even outside of IAC, the job that really threw me into the thick of that was when I was in digital business development over at EMI,
Okay.
because Napster was still, the it place to go download your music illegally most of the time. Groove Shark came right up behind them, and there were crazy lawsuits around Groove Shark, and then there was even an anti-piracy team at EMI to try and go out and search and find the people that were illegally downloading content, okay, and also slap on the wrist the people that were working at these companies that were allowing, the illegal downloads to happen. So it was a wild time, but I'd say an amazing time too,
Yeah.
because those companies were at the forefront, and Steve was at the forefront of literally saying, hey, guys, this is possible. You don't need to have some physical, tangible thing to hear your music.
Mhm.
You can literally hear it through these new devices called iPods. Microsoft, new device, Zune. I had one. It died, and I'm very sad because it was awesome. But all of these companies came forward and they were like, hey, we want to get in the game, right? So there was Microsoft. Obviously, Apple was the first one. There's
Yeah.
Microsoft. All these people were developing these online streaming services, but that music was still tethered, right? It was tethered to the devices. So once you downloaded the song, it went to your device and it couldn't come off. DRM free came out, and EMI actually was the very first company to really dive into that full
Hmm.
force. You know, um, they put out David Bowie's album Hours as one of the first ever albums to be available for DRM free download, which is pretty awesome. And
Now that is pretty cool.
yeah, it
So
was like,
you were definitely at the forefront of sort of that emerging disruptive technology, which we now take for granted, and definitely millennials they
oh
don't
my
they
gosh,
don't realize that what vinyls were. This was
yeah,
like our parents' time, right? What
records,
what
yeah,
CDs were, what the Sony Walkman was, and now we've gone to everything on the cloud,
yeah, it's
and
wild.
on demand. And so that yeah that in itself is a whole other podcast I'm sure we could do, right, on just that specific
Oh yeah,
turn of events.
big time.
um, so you saw that firsthand. You were living it, breathing it. Give us some insight into 2015 when you decided to go on an entrepreneurial journey, because here you are having gone through some great, I'm sure, learning and learning from industry experts and gurus, and then you decided to take that leap of faith. What was that like, and what was your sort of you know thinking behind that
Hmm. It was
at the time?
scary. It was extremely scary at first. Going from being in corporations for like, 13 odd years, and then just jumping in with 2 feet into, working with clients. It's definitely a different mindset. And it's one that I had to learn really quickly. There were so many things that I failed at the beginning. Um, but it was amazing because I was fortunate enough to have a handful of clients when I transitioned right away. So I learned from them, they learned from me as I was building the business, and it was a pretty cool time. It was a cool time. Um, and I'm fortunate enough to stay in contact with all of them, which is great. But it was definitely good learning. I'd say one of the best things for me was that the clients that I was working with at the time spanned industries. Okay.
Got it.
They weren't just in music. So I did have music clients. I had a lot of independent musicians that
Right.
needed help releasing their albums, releasing, their music
And
videos.
who better to go to than someone who was in the thick of things and did it with real, I'm sure, big clients in terms of working with your AR team and their clients, right?
Yeah.
Musicians. So
Yeah.
no, that's great. Now you've gone through, the early 2000s into what I would say now, we're going through also a time that is outside of just business and culture. That we're going through almost a second reemergence of civil rights movements in America because of the things that have happened. And I would even say that even going further back to even a few years back with the Me Too movement, right? Which we know all has impacted the entertainment industry in quite a significant way.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk to me a little bit about that because, as a woman entrepreneur, right? What have you seen evolve or not evolve in the music industry in relation to that? So the appreciation of diversity and empathy and equity.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot more empathy and sympathy around the issue. I've seen companies completely revamp how they're running. I've seen massive iconic executives get let go because they obviously were a lot of people at fault in this situation. I've seen companies look at women in a new light and actually start listening to us, which is everything. Because to be very blunt, I don't know any woman in the music or entertainment industry that I know personally who hasn't gone through something along those lines, right?
Sure.
So I'd say because of the Me Too movement, the entertainment industry as a whole has really stepped up to the plate and is really, starting to support women, believe women, and most importantly, listen to women for what we've all been through. And that's everything. I got to tell you, any woman in the entertainment industry has had to really fight for what they've had or currently have. Is not easy. It really isn't. And there's a lot of kiss the ring mentality that goes on there.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
dodging that, being about something, being strong in your footing and moving forward and doing what you want to do as a woman is extremely necessary and tough.
Yeah, no, that's great insight, and thank you for sharing that
Sure.
with us. I think it's relevant, more than ever, to think about those issues as well, right? And also the progress, which is very, very comforting to hear from someone inside, like an insider, saying, "Gianni, this is what's happening, and luckily we're moving in the right direction."
For sure.
Um, what do you consider? We all think we have, and rightfully so, some kind of superpower, something that's innate. What would you say has been sort of your superpower? Is it, from your origin line, an innate ability, your upbringing, influencers?
I would say that over time, I had to learn how to move from my head to my heart. And I consider that a superpower because you can't always just stay in your logic, but then you can't always be driven by your heart either. So you gotta have a balance of the two. And, back in the day when I was a kid and I was trying to move up the ladder and trying to, do everything, I literally was just logic head driven all the time. But I crashed and burned in situations where I had to use my heart. So I'd say that is the biggest one, the biggest lesson I've learned in life. And my biggest superpower is that I had to learn how to balance, logic brain and heart brain.
Right.
And B, now my superpower is that I can do both seamlessly. And I can flip in and out. It's necessary. But it took me a hot minute to get there. But I got
Yeah,
there.
we're always evolving. You're right, and that isn't an easy thing to do because it's almost the right brain and left brain competing, right? So you've got
Yeah, all the time.
creativity and pragmatic kind of mindsets, and to marry those are very difficult and separate them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to recall watching Oprah Winfrey quite a bit. Don't ask me why, but I did, and I know that one of her tag kind of lines was the aha moments, right? That she
Mm-hmm.
would have with guests, right? So when you were in the music business and you grew up in it and you started really delving into the finance side or the digital streaming side, what were some of the aha moments that you had as you started seeing that unfold in terms of how is this going to play out? How is this disrupting or not disrupting certain parts of the market? Did you have any aha moments, and or do you have them now that you're at StingRay plus you're consulting?
Mm-hmm. I'd say in the beginning years of my career, my main aha moments really came from connecting the dots. And what I mean by that is in all the roles I was doing as I was moving along, it was really cool to not only see how, my role in business development connected into my sales role for, Spotify and the audio streaming accounts, which then connected my learnings that I learned from that one into, my video job that I had at Universal, which connected into leading digital at one of Universal's labels. And then from all the people that I was working with, seeing how their jobs in their divisions connected into what I was doing, because we were able to help each other on anything from, campaigns to ad hoc projects to just helping the companies that I worked at be better. When you're unified with the people you're working with, so many great things can happen.
Yeah, I'm
Now,
glad you're.
yeah, I would say now with StingRay and with the other clients I'm working with, they're very different. StingRay is obviously focused on music. They're actually half B2B and then half B2C. And the B2C side is the music related side. So I mean, I have learned so much working with them because on the music end, they handle so much. There's audio streaming, there's, streaming on TVs. They have a whole website dedicated and app dedicated to long form video content, so concert content.
Right. Like OTT, right?
It's
Over
straight
the
up
top channels. Yeah.
straight up OTT.
Yeah, that's a huge market and one that has sub niches within it. And so that's what I guess StingRay's doing on the OTT side of the music concerts, sort of curating content for very niche markets, like Netflix approach.
Exactly.
To a certain degree, right?
So we say it's like the Netflix of concerts, right?
Yes.
And then they have karaoke apps. A ton of
I saw that.
So I
Lots
mean,
of fun.
all the music programming initiatives that are going on across all of those is wild. They also have a bunch of TV channels dedicated to like classical and like 4K content. It's wild. But learning from them has been exceptional. I walked in there like working through straightforward channels, right? And learned so much about what goes into programming a channel. So much time and how many people
Production.
it takes to just run one piece of the business. There's 200 curators that they use, human curators, okay, that sit there and program each channel. That's wild. Like Pandora is based on algorithm. There are people literally sitting down every day creating amazing, amazing experiences for subscribers. It's wild. It's really cool.
That brings me to 2 points. One is, let's talk a little bit about the diversity that you saw within these organizations, right? In terms of, I just heard you talk about you connected the dots quickly, right? That was your aha moment that helped you catapult in your career. But talk to me about what you saw personally in terms of innovation because of diversity in thinking, right? So these projects, I'm presuming, are large, complex, and you've got a lot of moving parts in different divisions. What did you, what did you sense in terms of inclusion, diversity, collaboration, empathy, all those things that make up part of thought, thought leadership in a way, right? What did you see when you were in the whole, down in the basement, if you will, of the music industry, working long hours and long nights, I'm sure, on projects?
Oh, there were several of those. I would say that the inclusion was pretty solid. Like we were all there for the same reason, our love of music. So automatically that connects everyone. Were there differing personalities? Oh yeah. You also learn really quickly how to just like deal with pretty much every type of personality imaginable because the music industry attracts that.
Yes.
But that's just life too, right?
Yeah.
If I was to take myself out of the music industry and go into any industry, frankly, I will come up against various personalities too. It seems like the entertainment industry as a whole
Is a magnet.
attracts some really, really, I would call them bright personalities. Keep it nice and PC.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there were more ways to innovate. There were, because of the different personalities that were all a part of the music industry, the personalities, the people that I was coming across, outside of the feeling of inclusion, there was so much differing thinking that would come into play. Meaning, like if we were working on a project or a campaign or something, it was great because there were so many different points of view coming into something, right? While I might say, hey, we should do X, Y, and Z, somebody would be like, but what about B and C? Because they complement each other. So I might be, thinking in a way that, like more like in a like abstract way,
Right.
and they might be more linear. And then we bring them together, and magic can happen, right?
Yeah.
I think that is especially true of StingRay in particular. I'm an American. StingRay is a Canadian company.
Okay. So a bit of a cultural difference, even though there are cousins to the north, but they definitely do have a different mentality.
There are
I've worked in
cousins too.
Canada a little bit, and also have cousins who live in Ontario, the
Oh,
Toronto area
cool.
outside. So I understand
That's awesome. Yeah, in Montreal, most
French.
of the office is French.
Yes.
But they were really cool with me from the beginning. They were just so excited to have somebody, come in with a different vantage point
Yeah.
that really help just bridge the gap between all their service offerings and see how we could, exploit them for the majors and all the artists in the majors for all their upcoming albums and their singles and their videos and karaoke, and like just pull it all together. And also for their concerts if they want to do streaming. And StingRay also is really big at live streaming.
Awesome.
When in last September, we got to live stream the Kaboo Festival in Del Mar, and it was amazing. We really lucked out. We live streamed 2 out of the 4 stages. So they're always doing really cool live streaming initiatives. So, working through that was especially eye-opening to me because that was the first gig that I ever did live streaming with.
Live stream.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That kind of leads me into, so the other, let's say, the elephant in the room, right, is C19. And that's disrupted the entire planet and every industry across the board. Thinking of summer, concert season, which is such a big part of the whole wheelhouse of the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing people pivoting to? What is the industry pivoting to, right? So what can you tell me about that?
Live streaming.
Right. Which I knew that was going to, that's why I led you into that, but.
Perfect segue, man. Perfect.
Yeah. So what are some interesting things you're learning right now with StingRay around streaming live,
Mm-hmm.
but also tell me if you have some anecdote around artists that are either against it, for it, for better or worse, they're having to cope with it. Right. And so what have you seen as feedback in the feedback loop?
Cool. I'm going to backpedal a little bit. So we'll start with the artists that were not fully into live streaming pre-COVID. When we were working on Kaboo, I was in charge of all of the live streaming clearances, meaning I had to reach out to the artist camps and say, hey, we noticed that your artist is playing Kaboo. Can we live stream them, for their set? I'd say I was successful with about 90% of the artists for the 2 stages that were live streamed. The other 10% were, I'm not going to say who they were, but I will say this.
Sure.
They are very iconic, well-loved artists, but they're iconic because they've been around for a very long time. And previous to COVID, they weren't really open to the idea of live streaming their stuff for probably, various reasons, right?
Probably personal and probably also some that are legalese and financial.
Right. There's always like legal loopholes you have to jump through. There's always sensitivities about, how they feel about how they're sounding. There's all kinds of things at play. However, post Kaboo, COVID times, those very same artists are now all over Instagram, doing the Instagram lives,
right?
Facebook lives,
TikTok
Twitch,
contest,
Twitch is a big one.
Twitch as well.
Seriously. And
Right.
I got to talk about Twitch for a second.
Sure.
When Twitch first hit the market, they were mostly known for gaming.
Yes.
And they have opened that up, and musicians are noticing, and they think it's the coolest thing. So they're jumping in there. They have like a way where you can, tip your favorite artists. It's wild. It's really cool. And I love that technology. Artists really, I don't think it's really necessarily, are they really loving live streaming or are they hating live streaming? It's a necessity.
Yeah.
Straight up. It is a big necessity for them. If they want to stay transparent, if they want to stay seen right now, they need to be live streaming. And it could be anywhere. It could be with anyone. It could be on Facebook Live. It could be Instagram Live. It could be on Twitch. It could be on TikTok. It could also be with companies like StingRay doing wider things. There's so much that can be done. StingRay really has been live streaming a very long time, and they know how to do it. It's pretty awesome. But I think it's a fun opportunity. I see, COVID obviously is beyond terrible, like what we all are going through right now. It's insane, but in all bad things, there are always silver linings.
Yes.
And I think for artists in general, the silver lining really is just the capacity, the way of being able to be at home, grabbing your guitar if you're a guitarist, sitting at your piano if you're a singer-songwriter, and just sharing music. And it drops that third wall where if you're a true music fan, you actually want to see the stuff. You want to see
the behind the scenes.
Yes.
Where do they jam when they're not in a big
stuff.
studio?
Yeah. You want to see what their living room is. You want to see them just sitting at their home piano, not some fancy piano on tour that might be like decked out with God knows what, or like the shoe piano that Gaga has all the time. I mean, she's epic. She's insane. Like if you haven't ever seen her live, when we can see shows live again, please go see Lady Gaga, because that is just something
mind-blowing.
It's an experience. I'll leave it at that. She's one of my absolute favorite artists of all time. She's great.
Awesome. I'm sure that it's 120% mega produced and very engaging for the fan experience. I can just imagine.
Oh yeah. It's very interactive.
So you did hit the nail on the head. So because it's now a necessity, right? So I think that necessity breeds innovation. And because out of necessity, there's going to probably be winners and losers in industries. Those that adapt, those that pivot, those that embrace technologies. And that goes even to the level of the music industry and into the artist level, right? Those that embrace, like you're saying, all these platforms that maybe have not thought about before and now have to. It's not a I'd like to, it's a you have to like survive and thrive.
Yeah, live streaming is now part of their campaigns.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Like I can imagine every big record label is already has been for the last 2 months, if not, as soon as COVID-19 hit and we knew that things were going to get progressively worse, not better. Right. Europe is different right now than here in the States. If we, as we follow the news and see what's going on, and maybe there might be some concerts there, but right now it doesn't matter because you can't fly into Europe. And they're not allowing Americans to fly into Europe. So that includes, even celebrity bands, right? So as much as they'd love to say, they get special treatment, COVID-19 has nixed out. You're not going to get special treatment.
And their tours, all the tours are canceled.
Yes, right. And that's a financial impact to the industry, right? So here in Florida, for example, tourism is a huge part of our industry. I mean, revenue for the state, as well as concerts. Summer concerts here are very popular, as you probably already know, because of the weather and what have you. And so, Disney is about to open up this Saturday. Very, 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 debatable, because of the fact that we're right now living through COVID-19, this state, among other states, is actually on the up in terms of statistics. So, but again, it's industry, right? So it's industry driven in industry is driven by financial, gains or losses, and you can only sustain so many losses. But then there's the ethical element to talk about around, do you want to open up Pandora's box in a way? No pun intended with music and one of your probably competitors, but so it's interesting that the music industry is doing that. I had a small little, tiny impact in the music industry for my cousins in Ecuador. Have a pretty cool indie reggae ska band called Papa Chango, and they actually made it to M3, which is you remember the MTV Hispanic, growing Hispanic, market. We got to do something for them, right? So they got some awards and hit the charts actually, and got into the Latin Grammys even. So, and I was living in California, like I mentioned to you. That's why I showed you. I sent you the pictures of the me at NAMM for 2 years to get them some deals. I was sort of like their quasi manager era. Well, I was doing a full-time job, by the way, over there, so not easy. And in Los Angeles, just like New York, it's a brutal market.
Yeah,
as you know. But luckily, we did get him some. We got him Pasty and who else? He was a drummer, so Pasty, and I want to say we got someone in to do a little bit of endorsements on the guitar side. But anyhow, getting back to you. So COVID-19. Obviously, you've described what people are doing now.
I think that everyone is focused more on film right now. TV, Netflix, Hulu, Quello, a bunch of ways to just escape reality.
Well, here's a thought. StingRay should, in one of their channels, have a behind the scenes docu of living through COVID, XYZ artist.
That's interesting.
Yeah. By the way, we can split the revenue on that. That was a smart chicken idea that came out of us talking about this.
Okay. Nailed it. And I love it. The music side is a very tricky thing.
Yeah.
Artists sell their music. Executives help support them, right?
Right.
Labels help support them. It's not the other way around. Without great artists, there would be no labels. There couldn't be. So, I think that a lot of people also, like myself, I'll just, use myself as an example. I'm gravitating now towards like happy music that is reflective of better times, meaning 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Ain't no shame.
Yes.
I'm totally proud about listening to Rick Astley.
Oh, absolutely.
And Belinda Carlisle and my girl Cyndi Lauper. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh my goodness, I love it.
Yeah, but like the newer stuff tends to be a little darker, a little heavier. It's definitely different vibes. But artists always do what they know. Artists always create their art from what they're in every single time. So that's very interesting and curious too to think about. The decline in streams, I wouldn't even be too, I wouldn't put too much weight in it because streaming always tends to go up. But I think that because it's frankly the most viable thing happening in music today. Outside of
that report, I mean, it might have come out, I can't recall if it just came out a couple months ago, but even so, I think you're right. We don't know what we don't know. So, but we do know that if we have a prolonged C19 global experience, and here in the U.S. even, more poignant for every industry in the music industry, streaming will become that much more important.
For sure.
So I agree with you that even if there's like ebb and flows, right? So it's just like the stock market. It's typically always going in a hockey stick, even though there's the ups and downs and the valleys when there's recessions and impacts to the market. Same thing with your industry. So no, this is interesting. What do you see what would you give as advice, right, to someone who is recently graduating? Right. I've thought about them a lot these days because I know that I've had to mentor a little bit and have millennials under me, and seeing how bright they are, how eager they are to get into the workforce. And unfortunately, because of the C19 situation, they may have to, pivot and not have the same opportunities that their that a friend of theirs a year ago had, right? Graduating college, right? So what advice would you give to these young, folks that want to break into the music industry?
I would say be as visible as humanly possible. Make sure you have a website. Make sure and this, by the way, is for either if they want to break into the music industry as an executive or break into the music industry as an artist.
Sure.
Website is necessary. For the executive side, if you want to just create a very basic, landing page with your information on it, that's cool. But it will help you stand out, outside of the various other folks that are also trying to get into the music industry at this time. I'd say reach out to as many people as you can. LinkedIn is an amazing source.
Right.
When you're on LinkedIn, literally put in the companies you would like to work for and look under people. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see all these people that work there. Reach out to the ones that work in the division you might be interested in and say, hey, my name's so-and-so. I've recently graduated. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn and learn more about, your company if you have the time. It's different now that we're in a digital culture, and they can't literally walk down the hall and say, hey, what's going on? Much more different than back in the day when I started.
Yes.
Outside of that, so they need to really be hustling and using LinkedIn as a major connecting tool.
Absolutely.
Outside of that, learn everything you can. Now is the time. Instead of binge watching things on Netflix, put down Tiger King and focus more on yourself. Meaning, read up on music industry blogs, read books about the music industry.
You're reading my mind, because that was going to be my question about reading, right? Leaders are readers, or vice versa, right? Readers are leaders. What are some books that you would recommend? Because these are great, by the way, great tips for them. LinkedIn for sure. I would add one thing to LinkedIn. On LinkedIn now, there's a way that, or you can create a short video of yourself. Make it humanize the experience through video. I personally use Drift, but there's Wistia, there's Vimeo. You can do any videos even on your cell phone and then upload it. Let people understand that you are, your skin and bones and blood, and that you have passion for what you're seeking. Mm-hmm. Right. So that conveys a lot better in video, I think, than just in a text to someone who may not know who you are. And frankly, right now, everyone's getting inundated on LinkedIn. And sometimes what a little pet peeve of mine is if they don't even say, hi, my name is something, and also look like they've looked at my profile and engaged somewhat on my content. So that's another thing I would say as a tip is engage in whomever you really are admiring or you are aspiring to connect with or be somehow seen or heard by them. Mm-hmm. Literally do the right thing, which is check their profile, but not just by looking at it and scan it. Literally look at one of their posts, read it, comment, engage. Even if your opinion is not the same as theirs and whatever they're saying, as long as you're commenting and showing engagement, now you can use that when you do your video invitation, and to separate yourself from everybody else that just sent them, please connect with me or whatever. Now they're seeing, oh my God, this person took time of their day, which is probably the commodity that none of us have. We have more now, but I'm just saying that's the thing that none of us like to waste potentially, right? So you stand out, you put a video, you say that, look, I loved your comment. Like, I love when people do that. What I don't like is when I get these connections that are blind connections, which I already know. And I even do all right, I'll accept you because it's not like I like to be friendly, and that's just my personality, and I'll connect with pretty much anybody.
Sure.
However, then you get hit up with that second, like, holy crap, I'm selling you everything and my grandmother, and you're like, that's not what I was like connecting with you for, right? Like, exactly. So be mindful for those who are listening. Everything that Amy's saying is absolutely correct, but try to tweak it a little bit, personalize it. Take that extra, minute, 2 minutes to personalize it. It'll go such a long way. But anyhow, going back to you, what are the books? Because I want to know that it helps you kind of get into the person's brain, I think, when you know the books they're reading. So what books are you reading, and why? Okay,
first, I'm going to recommend one book on the music industry to start with. There are so many, but there is one that you really need to get if you are brand new to the music industry, don't know too much, or if you went through a music program in college and you learned a little bit about each part, but you should still read this one. It's called All You Need to Know About the Music Business, and it is by Donald S. Passman.
Awesome. I'm going to put all these on the show notes, by the way, so they're going
Oh,
to be able to
cool. I'll
read
send you
and
links
link
and
it.
stuff. Yeah, I'll send
Awesome.
you even more, but that one is good because it really dives into the different parts of the music industry that you might not learn about in school, that might literally exist and be quite lucrative for you, that you might
Out
not
of theory
think
and into
about.
the real world of this is
Yes,
how it happens and it goes down, people,
yes,
right? Got
yes,
it.
straight up. The other book I am literally just starting to read is called Building a Story Brand, and it's by Donald
Donald
Miller.
Miller. I love it. Yeah.
Yes, peak
Great book. I read it
community
as
book.
well.
Peak community. I literally am slacking because I just started it.
Yeah, no worries. Listen, as you know, there's, to your point about embrace the time to self-educate, to be a lifelong
Yeah.
learner. You could do it in Audible. I like to get them hard copies like the ones you see in the back, but I get Audibles too. I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and a wife,
Oh,
and a family and a dog, cat, and all that. You can only be so human. I mean, you can only do so much, right? We're all human. So, but there is no excuse. You can definitely do it in Audible as well and listen to it while you're driving, jogging, whatever it is you're doing. So I love that. Donald Miller, he's the man. I love his story brand framework. And that's definitely, it'll help you get that message tight, concise. One of his sayings in the book, and you'll read it. You're reading it, so you'll see. It's if you're confusing, you're losing. So
yes,
you gotta
so
be
true.
concise, and sometimes hard because some of us are like, I'm myself, I'm verbose. So I sometimes get into, I've got to learn to, be concise. But go ahead. So you were telling us, so that's the one you're reading and you're going to get a lot out of it. I know.
I'm really excited about that because the thing is, so far what I've seen is he writes in such a way that can transition industries. Obviously I've been in the music industry for a very long time, but I have clients in B2B. I have clients in account-based marketing, like clients in finance, clients in like all sorts of things. And it's really great because I have a toe in other industries because of that. And the way he writes is so open to everyone because you know what? The power of story and what it represents really transcends industry. And I love that so much. I think one of the greatest things you can do when you are in one industry, because I know so many people that literally are locked in for life into specific industries. Music's just one of them, but like they might have had like their whole entire career spent in one, which is cool, but learn about other ones too. Know what's going on in
absolutely,
the world,
absolutely. And I love what you said. So Donald Miller's framework, you're right. It's scalable and
It's very scalable.
you can transfer it into any industry.
Yeah.
There's another gentleman that I think you'll like reading too. His name is Marcus Sheridan, and he wrote a book called They Ask You Answer. He's a pool guy. He owned the pool business in 2008 when it was going down. And love this guy. Seen him on a few, at conferences, digital conferences like Inbound a couple times, and even got him on a podcast for another show. And great person as well. But yeah, his whole concept is, you've got to be super transparent. But he also says something that's sort of in the lines with Donald Miller, which is, you know what? Every business thinks they're different, but that's not true. Because every business has a hero, and that hero is the customer. It's not you. It's not your brand, right? And everyone is more worried about what state are you going to get me into, right? So I'm in this state. What's the state the happy state that I want to be in? You want to delight a customer? Do you want to delight a fan in music? What have you? It's always the same thing, right? We overcomplicate it by thinking, no, my business is different. No, it's not. You got a customer, you got a product and a service. You got to have a concise message because you've got, a lot of noise out there and you've got tons of competition. So when you're all swimming in the sea of sameness, how are you different? You got to be that quick and that concise and that, you got to be that moving as well. And that's where storytelling comes in. And what I love is that your background is perfect for this because music is storytelling.
Good music.
Right? When you think about it, the lyrics, the music, it all comes from a story. So, and it captivates us. Storytelling is in the way that he frames it. Donald Miller is he wanted to be an aspiring screenwriter, right? So he learned the formula that Hollywood has known for ages on, having your kind of your 7 parts of the story, your hero, your guide, your problem, your resolution. And if you think about it, the only time we really focus in for about an hour without much distraction is when we're watching Netflix or a movie or something, or we're listening to a couple jams that we just want to zone into. And it's because they've got this storytelling that's hitting our conscious and subconscious in such a way. When it's done right, we're captivated, right? We're burning brain cells doing that. So that's kind of why, the mix between your experience with music and what that's been in your career, plus what you're doing in different industries, is going to give you an edge. I'm sure of it. Once you read the whole thing, it's going to be great. I'm going to want to have you back just to talk about that. I love books. But so, all right. So you're a reader and a leader, which I love. Gave 2 awesome books as recommendations. Now, let's say you were able to jump in I'm going to take you back to the 80s a little bit. We jump in a car with Michael J. Fox, his DeLorean, and we're going back to the future, Amy. We really are. So what would you tell your younger Amy if you were in this car with not the doc, it'd be Gianni, Michael J. Fox, and yourself?
I would say, don't be so locked into your ideas. Try a bunch of different things, and don't beat yourself up if they don't work. Just keep being curious and keep trying, and just don't beat yourself up about, changing and, going with the flow, because it's necessary in order to survive.
I love that. Yeah. So be open-minded.
Straight
right?
up, be open-minded.
Explore, experiment.
And most importantly, you got to be kind to yourself all the time.
I like that.
You got to be kind to yourself. Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up too much.
Exactly.
Right. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Always.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. So this has been an incredible, dialogue, conversation, just getting in your brain a little bit, Amy. So I really, really appreciate your time, your insight, your energy. And how can people find and connect you and to learn more about what you do in your consulting, as well as with StingRay services and products?
Sure. LinkedIn. Straight up. LinkedIn is the best.
Got it. So Amy Pugh, P-U-G-H,
cool.
and we'll put it on the show notes for people. But that's how they can find you.
Thank you for having me. This has been
No,
really
this is awesome.
Thank you for.
You'll definitely show up for sure. I know
Yep.
that. So this has been great. Any 3 takeaways that you would give really quick to recap as what you would like people to remember this episode for?
Number 1, stream more music. Number 2, if you are starting out in the music industry, hustle hard, but be thoughtful. Do your research before you reach out to anybody, and stay open. You might think you want to work in marketing, but maybe some other job in the music industry is more of a fit for you. Be open to learning about the different divisions, because there are some really great jobs in music industry that you might not know about. 3, stay curious, read everything. Try to limit your Netflix and Hulu watching for maybe an hour or so. Dedicate it to something else, which helps you grow more as a person during this time. It could be anything. It could even be crafts. It could be like arts and crafts. Explore your creativity during this time, because you can. And that is a really, really important side of you. You should definitely, nurture, because it helps feed the rest.
Love it. Love it. Great 3 takeaways.